Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Aqibatun lil Mustaqim. Wala Rukwana. Ila wa ala Dalimeen. Wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulina Muhammadin. Wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh. Lil Ikhwani Wati fi Deen. Salamu ala mani taba huda. Lil Ikhwani Rati fi Afrika, Europa, America, wa Caribbean, wa kuli makan. Haling wa salim biko. And unzaram to my Fulbe community and all to my brothers everywhere you may be. And I'm going to be covering something that I wanted to cover for a long time. This is a kind of a precursor perhaps to another type of program I was going to be doing. And let me give a shout out here to our dear brother here. And if you guys get a chance, those come in the future, please subscribe to our brother's podcast. Very interesting. He gets down with our history, and he's now covering the eastern part and going down to the south central and then to the southern part of Africa. So support your brother and his podcast because we all should get a well-rounded education and get a variety of teachers. You specialize in one, no problem, but you should also get other teachings because you'll get something from all of us, and that's the way it should be. So thank you, my dear brother, for showing up today. And I touched on Egypt, Kemt, as we know it, some time back. And there's a lot of stuff that I have on it, and I didn't really kind of want to get into it in some ways because it's a lot of information out there. But I decided perhaps I may go into it because I had scheduled to start talking about it in January of this year, but things haven't been decided. I can never get free, every time I say, okay, everything's calmed down and something happens again, so you know how that is. And so I decided to perhaps I will delve into this, but I had to talk about this issue today, brother and sister, because I had a profound experience when I was in Ghana in the year 2002. Profound. I started having a turnabout of my life when 2000 came, as you heard me talk about in previous casts before, where I saw what appeared to be my great Baba from way back from Kemp. And I told you what happened. Then I went, changed my name and everything to reflect his name. And I went from there. Then I went to Ghana. And Ghana, I had the fortune, and it was by accident because I was looking for ancestral people in my family and so forth, well before DNA, but I was told to go to Ghana. And I started to meet people and so forth. So I was taken to eastern part of Ghana to a village called Agbozome. Those who know of his beautiful, very quiet, sleepy village, traditional African type village right off the coast. And it was hotter than heck. Okay, much hotter than it was in Accra. When I was in Accra, when I got to this region, I was baking, okay? And the kids always had to go in the coconut palms to bring down coconuts for me to drink. So I had the fortune to meet a very brilliant man that's passed on. And I never could understand. He would give me metaphors. He would give me so many words of wisdom. A lot of it I wrote down. A lot of it I lost because, moving and so forth and so on. And I'm certain now that he studied in the system because he gave me things that just, I didn't hear before. And the way he presented it, and he gave me these metaphors and he gave me these idioms and worded. And I will get to one of my favorite that he gave me and that I told a lot of people about. And I would sit down with him and talk to him, and he would give me answers to many things. And this is why I always say, brothers and sisters, none of the so-called pathetic men of Europe or Asia have nothing on our African brothers. Okay, bottom line, they just don't. And we have many who are very well-to-do. And here we got our sister here. Wa alaikum salam rahmatullahi barakatuh. Thank you, my dear sister. Jazakallah khairan for showing up today. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. And our brother said, I'm excited about it. Yes. And this profound time I spent with him was so worthwhile. And he gave me so many things. I would ask him questions and he would give me answers. And sometimes I had to think about what he was trying to explain to me. And I also got a glimpse into an ancient Egyptian language, which is God, which he spoke. The brothers who took me from Accra to this region, only one had working knowledge of God. They said that this is a very difficult language. None of them could speak it. And so they found one brother that they knew that had relatives who were God. And so he came but my teacher could speak English as well, with a very deep accent. But anyway, he came with us. And so I started to sit down with him immediately, and he started to ask me questions about my life and so forth and so on. And as he began to talk to me, he began his teachings. He said to me, Shabaka, I'm going to tell you this now. He said, you will come back to this continent. You will live here and you will die here. And I looked at him and I said to him, well, Baba, I have family. My father's still alive. He's old, but I have children and cousins and siblings and so forth and so on. So he got to start to talk to me and he said, your children do not belong to you. They belong to their mothers. That's the thing he said to me. They do not belong to you. So he said, your ties with them, you've done what you had to do with them, but they belong to their mothers. He said, your father is, he's your father and you respect him. Even if you're there or here, you always show him respect. So he started to give me these things right away, And I told him, I said, well, I don't know if I'm ready. And he told me, he says, you will come back here because now you have answered the call of your ancestors, he said. And you are the first one from your lineage who was taken by the slave masters to America. Now you have returned. He says, now you have stepped foot on the land of your ancestors. You have now breathed the air that they have breathed. Now you will be tasting the food that they ate, drinking the water that they drank. And you will be among your people. He said, because those people there are not among your family. Your family, your real family is here in Africa because somebody in your lineage, he said to me, everything's telling me, I'm repeating it. You answered that call. And that's why you have returned. And you will go back and you will see you're going to have a hard time. I did. When I went back from the airport, I went to the airport, I was pulled aside. I mean, it looked like they had followed me, and so forth. And, they talked to me at length and whatnot, and then, things I start to change. Eating habits, things start to change and change. And to a point, 2005, I came to Islam. I came to Maghreb to come to Islam. I was at the point now I could not stand it anymore being in the United States. And so this is the one thing. And I'll tell you one other thing that he said to me, and then I'll get into this, which is very interesting. His name is Mr. Kotze. He's passed on now. He said to me, I asked him a question. I said, you know, I got a reunion of high school and I got this going on and so forth and so on. And, you know, I'm curious if I should go or what should I do about those who I knew from my, you know, when I was a young man and so forth and so on. So he said, okay, look, let's take a walk. And we used to always walk. I was on, and he was been there. No, it's a beautiful, sleepy village, traditional, beautiful date palms, very, very high, 30, 40 meters high. You know, the ocean's right there, green. It's, you know, just beautiful, traditional African village. And there was one stream that ran through the village that led to the ocean. So he told me, let's go. So we went and we start to walk. And I got to part of the stream near the ocean. He said to me, Shabaka, you go pick up any rock that you want. I said, okay. So I picked up a rock. He said, now throw it into the stream. I threw it into the stream. Then he said to me, he said, you see this rock? In 20 years, it will change. He said, this is how those people are there. He said, you honor them as you knew them then, and don't seek them out because they will disappoint you. This is what he said to me. And it floored me. Here I'm sitting with someone that has some special connection with Subhanahu wa ta'ala, some man that has so much in-depth knowledge. I've never been around any man like that. Never, all in my life, never. And I didn't know where this is coming from. It blew me away. And when I got to thinking about it, I said, he's correct. Because when I got back home and as I start to meet the people I knew then, he was correct. They began to disappoint me because I was thinking of them when I knew them when I was 18 or 19 years old in high school, you know, so forth and so on. So I just wanted to give you that, brothers and sisters, to show you how mesmerized when you meet this type of Baba, who is a teacher, a scholar, a man, definitely Subhanahu wa ta'ala is blessed. He's got the mystery school systems in his talk, and he gives it to the people. When I would talk to some of the people in the village, they used to tell me things about him, you know, and so forth and so on. About they would sit around and everybody would talk, and he would mediate. He would do things like this with the people, and they said he had knowledge. But I noticed every day he would disappear because he was Muslim. And I suspected at this time he didn't want to tell me that because, you know, in America, if you tell somebody you're Muslim, you won't receive the teachings because you say, oh, I hate Muslims, you know, or something like this. He knew I was not Muslim yet, but he was scared to let me know that he was Muslim. But he would disappear, especially between what we call Salat Maghrib and Isha, about an hour, 2 hours. I saw that. But this is what I had, brothers and sisters, that this is the beginning of a journey of wisdom. And he said to me that I'll get on with the course here. He said, look, you're here now with me. He said, these words will stay with you and you teach these words and you will understand the meaning to these words. It's him who I explained many times before when I asked him a question about woman and about the women who we should marry. He coined the phrase, you should marry the woman of Eve. And I've told this story many times. I looked at him. You know, I mean, these types of metaphors and idioms, I never heard such a type of way of wording things and the meanings behind it. So I said, Mr. Kosi, you know, woman of Eve. And you know, I'm confused. And then he said to me, because the black woman, he said, the African woman was first on this earth. So we call her Eve because this is what we know her to be. So I said, yes, Mr. Cole said, I understand that. I said, but if I'm walking down the street, how I'm going to know if this woman is of Eve or not? It's about the attitude, it's about this, it's about this. He said, no, the prima facie evidence to that, he said, is her parts. Brothers, you listen to me well. If you don't understand what I'm saying right here, right now, you go back and review exactly just what I said. Because many times I had to sit back 5 minutes, sometimes longer, dumbfounded, trying to understand what he was trying to tell me. It wasn't her hair color that designated her among Eve. It wasn't necessarily her attitude or the language that she spoke, but he said it was her parts. We're all adults here. You know what I'm talking about, brothers and sisters. I'm not talking about something sexual here, but I'm giving you something what an old man explained to me, Baba, what he explained to me about the woman of Eve. So I begin to understand. I said, but what about the woman to the north? How about the woman over here? He said, don't look at the Arabs, he said, with their skin color. He said, you examine them by their parts. That's what he told me. He said, then you'll know she's part of Eve. He started giving me these things. Brothers, sisters, I was mesmerized. Okay, mesmerized by this brilliant man who had developed, now I know, under the hidden systems of the ancient Kempt mystery school system. And this is something that, this is something that is really, I just, like I say, it was just mesmerizing. And still, after all these years, I'm still mesmerized. And I recount many times, I come across something. I said, Mr. Colsey told me this. I remember Mr. Colsey told me that. And he told me many, many different things. And it's been profound. It's been very, very profound in my life. And oh, yes, there's a connection in that. And I'll get into that. And there's a connection to it. But we always have to remember something about Islam. When the teachings were given, by Subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he gave a message to all of the prophets of old, he gave them a message. And we know that each messenger was given a particular job to do. We know this. And we know that Subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed wise men with knowledge as well. We understand that. This is why the mystery school systems that we understand disappeared mainly in the Islamic period, is because Islam was remnant of that, meaning it didn't come from that, because Subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to our Prophet ﷺ, and he gave him guidance, just like Moses ﷺ. He was given guidance directly from Subhanahu wa ta'ala. He had training, we know, in the mystery schools, just like Jesus ﷺ. He was trained in the Kempt, Egypt mystery schools, no doubt about that. And there's other things that said about many others trained in this system. Here in the school systems, they were trained in many of about life, and again under some of the most pathetic of teachings, the laws of opposite, that we can never master. Those 4 conditions, you heard me talking for weeks now, the laws of opposite. And so the teachings were around based upon that, because we had to deal with water, we had to deal with air, we had to deal with land, and we had to deal with fire. Because all of those things is controlled by Subhanahu wa ta'ala. See, so this is something, and there's a lot of information too that's out there that said that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ went to Egypt, or somebody from Egypt came to him and gave him the knowledge. No, he did not. This is not, because the Prophet received the knowledge from Subhanahu wa ta'ala, because he was not a learned man. And you got to think about something. The Prophet ﷺ was not lettered. He could not read and write and so forth and so on. The people in the mystery school systems, when you learned under the systems, you came back, you can read and you can write, because they used a writing system. We know that, right? We know that. See, he did not have that. And he was given this, and he had to give this instruction, as you know the story, to a person, okay, one of the companions who began to write about what he was told. And this is how the beginning of Islam, how we started, and then so forth, and it graduated to rules and so forth after years. And then the teachings from Allah would come. And this is why when you read the Quran, especially in this Arabic text, it's not the same as you would think it is, because this had to be directly from Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and the knowledge that he received also. There was nobody had a knowledge, and I'll give you one, and I will start. I talked about this once time before. You know, the Prophet ﷺ gave us a good direction about something, but Subhanahu wa Ta'ala told him. He said about the oceans. He said that the adjoining oceans, they don't mix. And it's true. Modern scientists have proved this. There's nothing that we understand in the mystery school systems that actually discuss this part. We don't know this. We don't have records of that, because we look at the Book of Dead and we look at some of the other books. They don't have this particular knowledge. He said they don't mix. The Indian Ocean doesn't mix with the Pacific. Pacific doesn't mix with the Atlantic. Okay, it doesn't. The Indian Ocean doesn't mix. You see? And the second part to that is that the Prophet ﷺ said, again, in his teachings that he got from Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, he said the fresh water, when it runs, like when I was in Abu Zoma in Ghana, we had a stream that actually goes into the ocean. The fresh water and salt water doesn't mix. And they found this to be the case. This is what he got from Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. See? And everything I have read over the years, I mean, many years, about the mystery systems and especially the Book of the Dead and some other books and texts, I never found anything quite as profound as that, talking about the ocean and so forth. Yes, about the four opposites, we got that. And there's other things. The Prophet ﷺ was given things about the space, but he was not given the solar system. See? But he was given us about, and he gave us 7 heavens. Okay, he told us about the 7 heavens in the space, right? We know our brothers who I have heritage, the doggone, you heard me talk weeks back, talked about an issue like this as well. They said that when we die, our souls, okay, you know, when our souls leave us, they go to the Sirius system, and this is where they rest. The Prophet ﷺ gave us that there's 7 layers of heaven, and we'll go to one spot. And the doggone people had said as such, in that they said this area is in the Sirius solar system. See, this is a lot of stuff. Again, you know, I do unauthorized talks. I'm gonna give you some knowledge about things, and you know, some people may not want that. I understand that, but I'm gonna give you some, because when I talk to Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, I ask questions about guidance, and I ask him. So I give you what I have, and pass it on, and give you something to think about. So we'll get started here on this. Now, I'm going to give you a speech, a direction near the end of this, inshallah ta'ala. Oh boy, look how this met. You know how these computers, you know, when you write, you have it, and they change the wording around. It's really really funny to me. You write you write something, and it changes it. It's like the computer has its own mind. It's very funny in some ways to me. Okay, here we go. It has its own mind, you know. The Kemetic mystery systems predates the Christian era. It does that, brothers and sisters. When we go back now, because me and Mr. Kotze, we talked a lot about Jesus ﷺ and about Prophet Muhammad. We discussed that, and we discussed things about Christianity and how he made points to me. He told me, I told him, I said, look, when I was there in the United States, before I became Muslim, when I was there in the United States, and I couldn't stand the churches. When I step into the churches, I didn't feel good, even as a little boy. One of the things that bothered me, and I could never understand this, is when I would go and I would see a picture of a white, a tuba, Jesus. That always bothered me. I look at those pictures even as a boy. I can never understand it. I looked at that. I said something about it is not right. I couldn't explain it at that time, but I always had these difficulties when I went into the churches. I had these difficulties, and we talked about this. He told me, he said the Africans were already in scholarship well before the Christian era, well before that. And he said, he was talking about this, and the schools were taught, but he said, by extraordinary Africans. He said, these Africans, he said, we don't know where they came from. This also has been verified by many scientists who have studied the Kemp mystery school systems. Who were these men? We know they said that the founder of it was Trismegistus. We know this is the name, and there's a name in Ga. Again, I'll get into this another time. Our famous brother who wrote about the ancient history, about the languages in it. I will cover that, inshallah ta'ala, bi'ithnillah. But he was the founder of these systems. The systems officially ended in Messer in Egypt, in Kemp, in 300, when the Roman church, decided it's time to kill. And they went there and destroyed the suppositories and killed just about all of the scribes and of the mystery school. It killed them to wipe out their seed and to wipe out the knowledge. See? And me and him talked about, Mr. Colts, we talked about this. Gift with the understanding of life, the earth, and the universe. Remember, we talked about the universe. This is what is puzzling to many of the Europeans today, because when the Europeans were in the Dark Ages, they did have people come and they studied in Africa. At this time, they were not bona fide hardcore racists as we know today, and genocidal racists. They weren't this way at that time. They came to Africa to learn, and they did. See, we know that. And so they begin to pick up this knowledge also. And again, brothers and sisters, as Mr. Colse explained to me, he said these people were extraordinary, because when he explained something to me too, because we were in the village, I would look up and it's beautiful. I mean, you can see every star. I mean, not like in modern cities today, you can't hardly see anything because of smog and dust and everything, right? But when you get into areas like in the Sahara, you can. And also in a lot of parts of Africa, West Africa, especially at nighttime, you can see everything is very close. And so he and I talked about the issue, and he said, we don't know where these teachers came from. We don't know where they come from. We don't have their lineages. We don't know who their mom and fathers were, but they had extraordinary knowledge, and they handpicked certain people to give this knowledge to. And this is handed down all the way even till we got to West Africa. The system was destroyed by the colonials in the 1800s because they wanted to make sure that the Africans stayed ignorant of themselves. So they went after the mystery systems. They went after our script, our script. Remember, the scripts were destroyed, but some of our mystery teachers kept it in quiet, wrote it and buried it. Now the knowledge is starting to come back. Some of our brothers have been gifted by Subhanahu wa Ta'ala to write the script again. See? And so we talked about that. And the teachings were timeless and secret. He said to me, they were in this way that the teachings were such that they were, he said, you learn, because apparently he was taught. See? So, and then they were preserved by a written script. And you say, okay, I don't know what you're talking about here. This is, look at all of our ancestral brothers. Look at this: Bambara, Mende, Loma, Capelle, Mendinka, Meninka, the Bassa, the Wolof, the Fola. And there's a whole bunch of scripts that we came from Africa, and we had these scripts we got from the hieroglyphic writings and so forth of our ancestral brothers. See, so we know this to be the case. And we know that the Mende, which is a famous script, this again is part of the mystery systems, brothers and sisters. There's knowledge in this. There's knowledge, and we had that knowledge. It was destroyed because we became sinful and we lost this. He allowed the Tubab to rule us, and he still do today. He allowed for them to take our knowledge from us. They gave their limited knowledge to us, and we've been stalemated. Now it's starting to come back. We're starting to have Africans, everywhere coming with this knowledge. As you heard me talk about previously, we have young kids that just woke up, 12, 13 years old, and we had a series of 3 that all of them the same ages. One became a doctor. He went to medical school at 13. We have one who recited the Quran without speaking any Arabic in the United States at 13. And we had the other who was a gifted person in physics. She's out of Nigeria. She's 13 years old. Coincidence? I don't know. And we have other things going on this earth as well. We have the famous actor, what's his name, Terrence Howard. He's got something from the mystery systems as well. He said now that the government has been threatening him. Out of the clear blue. He didn't go to school from this, talking about kinetic energy. Okay? This is a deep subject. How did he get it, brothers and sisters? He was acting. Terrence Howard, power, whatever they call the thing, and light-skinned brother, Fulani brother, he's Fulani. Him. He didn't go to school for that, and he was given mathematical numbers that many people made fun of. Until this Jewish scientist came and said, no, he's correct. And then suddenly people stopped to talk funny about him. And there are other people too. Brothers and sisters, these things are happening to African people. I'm giving you something today, to something that happened to me in 2002. And the teachings that I received in a short period of time were something else. Some knowledge is gifted. Yes, some knowledge is gifted. This is correct. And the connection between is again we go back. The Arabic is part of this script, and it's something that again a lot of people misunderstand this. If many people talk about the connections and stuff like this, as Muslims we have to be careful, because what connection you talking about? We're talking about because there's a system of learning. We understand that. Our brothers who are in Messer have received revelations of different things. Our prophet was given divine revelation, meaning for him to be able to pass this message around the world. See, this is the message that he was given, that he was bestowed on him, and we know Islam has been spread through the earth. Our brothers encamped, who became the Mende people, who became the Fuller people, became the Hausa people, became the Ga people, became the Igbo and the Yoruba people, the Kapeli people, and the Bambara people. Okay, they were given knowledge, but a different type of knowledge, and so forth, but not a knowledge which will govern the world. The Prophet ﷺ was given the message and given knowledge to where with his religion that he received from Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, okay, that was passed down from each prophet, but now he will be speaking and it'll be given to the whole world. Jesus, his message was not as such as that. It spread, yes, but you see what's happened to his, right? It's been corrupted, right? The Hebrews also has been corrupted. How about Islam? No, the book is still preserved because because Subhanahu wa Ta'ala said that that the Quran would never get corrupted. Yes, there's people do things to it, but we got too many people reciting it. We got 1 million people or so or more who recite this fluently and have memorized it and so forth. So we have connections to it, but then we have differences, and we have to acknowledge those differences. Oh, okay, yes, brother, how you doing, my dear brother Henry? Light bulbs from Hydran, and this stuff dates back thousands of years. Yes, this is true. And of course, the Tubab historians tend to forget that, because when you hear things about things like this, especially stuff coming out of ancient Egypt, Kemp, it's suddenly white faces put, and we know that we've been through this many times. We know that, and the United States, they did certain things because that was handed down to them, not knowing that our brothers already in Africa were doing that. You know what I mean? See, so this is funny. And whoever uses the bones are also built canals all over, passed down mystery systems, technology like they said they came from Seals. Yes, our brothers from the doggone were talking about this type of situation like this. The ancient Egyptians, they had a concentration on what is called the laws of opposite, and there are four. They governed that because we cannot control that. We cannot control these four different elements. This comes from Subhanahu wa ta'ala, which they acknowledge. This is how deep the history, this is how deep the knowledge was. And who were these men that received all of this knowledge? Because they're not common people. Mr. Coatsy, my teacher in Ghana, told me that. Because I asked him many times, I said, Baba, who were these men? Over the centuries, who were, he said, we don't know. He said, we just don't know. He said they would come and they would appear, they would come, they would teach, okay? We don't know about their wives. We don't know about their fathers. We don't know about their grandparents. This is why it's called the mystery systems. I want you to hear me good, brothers and sisters. I asked Mr. Coates a question about this, and even today, nobody, even our greatest scientists on Egypt and Kemp, can give us the answers about all of these mystery teachers. Where did they come from? Huh? And where did they go? They came to West Africa too, because Mr. Coates said they did. And when they began to bring certain people, they were taught, okay? They lived among the people, but the people recognized them differently than they did everybody else. This is why it's the mystery systems. And like he said, when they start talking about things in space, how did they get this? See, this is, and some of the things about water and about the changes of the atmosphere. I mean, stuff was mind-boggling. See, so this is again is why when we talk about issues like this, a lot of times, a lot of people, they don't care. I understand, because we don't feel good today. Why don't we feel good? Because there's so much stuff. We got to worry about jobs, food, and so forth. We got a lot of things going on that's hurting us. And because the knowledge has been taken away from us, and we still remain ignorant, like we've been out in the wilderness, walking around with our heads cut off. We have in Islam something where our Prophet ﷺ talked about it, and Subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this too, of worship. We begin to worship our worries. Begin to worship how many bills we have. We begin to worship how much money is sitting on the table. Begin to worship the food. And when we begin to do this, over a period of time, Subhanahu wa ta'ala removes his hand, and we remain ignorant. And this is what has happened to us. See? When the Kemet clans left Kemp, they carried with them learned men who preserved the scripted, the script and the mystery school systems. We know that they still did this. The colonials were aware of it, because the traders or turncoats would go for money and trinkets, would go to the colonials and say, look, in the forest areas over here, we have school systems where they're taught this. The colonials didn't want to have nothing of that. They want to teach a history that made them supreme. They want to take out these people, and they did. They destroyed many of the school systems. Schools, not like the schools we see today behind four walls. No, but they want to take the head of the snake and cut it. And they did. They killed many, And then they called them sorcerers. They called them different names. They justified killing them and killing the students. See, when in fact it was the exact opposite, because the devils weren't them. The devils were the colonials. See, during the colonial period, to disband them, they disbanded these and made it outlaw. I'll give you one, brothers and sisters, that you made them think about. You know, we talk about the martial arts, right? You know, karate, kung fu, jiu-jitsu, there's a whole lot. The rightful Chinese historians will tell you, and the Indian rightful historians will tell you too. Africans who came to India, we know they did because during the Islamic period, they were there for, I think, was 1,000 years. Yes, 1,000 years in India. We know that. And we know that they made it there in China. We know that China feels a native black population that they keep under wraps, but now it's surfaced out with pictures. See, Japan had a black population as well. We know that the first samurai was black, and the rightful Japanese historians will tell you that. When the historians and scholars from Japan went to talk to our brother in Senegal, Shep Diop, who's passed on now, to discuss the linguistics, they found that the Japanese language, that's why it's easy to learn for the black man. It's right, brother. I'm not talking about when you look at the script, but you listen to it. They found Japanese to be an African language. See, and it's true. And so this thing, again, brothers and sisters, it's deep. It's deep. And our clans preserved these knowledges, but the colonials disbanded it and they killed many. And we know that, unfortunately. See, we got one more comment here. If aliens had visited us in the past, do you think humans might have worshipped them as gods? Well, we look at the doggone are worshiping, right? They still have a ceremony every year where they put on the masks, they adopt appearance of those that they saw that they said it came from the Sirius system. See, and they said they were aquatic. They looked like they came out from water. So they still worship that. We had teachings that in Kempt where they wrote, and especially when they covered about the space, they drew certain things of what they saw. See, and also we have writings in caves around the world who said they were visited, and they had those in caves, and they showed pictures of them. I mean, they drew pictures of these beings. Some civilizations worshipped, others did not. Some worshiped, but then they became Christians, some became Muslims, and so forth and so on. See, so we know that to be the case. Okay, so during the colonial period, they disbanded them. Many clans preserved their teachings in the Sahara and the Savannah regions, forest regions, range from North Africa to South Africa. We still have all those teachings, and they preserved it, but it just wasn't many. But we do know they had it. When I studied the Zulus in South Africa, I told you here a couple of days ago, I was also mesmerized with them as well. I looked at their military system, especially Shaka Zulu, which is my favorite. And one of my favorite of all women of history was Nandi, the mother of Shaka Zulu. I was so impressed with her as well. So I studied the Zulus a lot. The Zulus have a mystery system, as some of the other people in South Africa as well. See, we have that. This mystery systems are everywhere in Africa because we left Africa and we went everywhere in Africa to settle. Those mystery systems stayed with us. Islamic teachings were adopted, which stalemated the ancient mystery systems. When the mystery systems was still operating, but many of our teachers, okay, Baba, many of them came to Islam because they found the teachings to be on par with the mystery systems. See, so they adopted Islam. Many of them did not, and he still kept the mystery school systems, and they still kept a worship. Some of it was mixed, which is a violation in Tawheed, and even in Hebrew, you cannot worship more than one thing. You worship Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and that's it. Okay. You have references for people, animals take care, and so forth and so on, but there's the worshiping as a different situation. The writing systems, which was taken from us, brothers and sisters, it returned when the Islamic period came. The Arabic is what? It's related to the Egyptian script, right? When that system came, that's why the brothers picked it up easy, because the Arabic and in writing systems is very similar. That's why the Arabic is a African language and written text. It's African. That's right. And matter of fact, I'll give you something about this if I have it here. I'm hoping you can take it from me. No, this is the Mendel. They took it. I think okay, let me see. Okay, now, this is the Ge'ez script here, brothers and sisters, right here. This is the Ge'ez script. And here, if you look at this, what does it remind you of? If you guys have working knowledge of things like this, it reminds you of what? The Hebrew. Because Hebrew, Arabic, Aramaic, and the other, I forgot, are sisters. They're related. Ge'ez is in Nubia, which as Habasha, as we know as Ethiopia, Eritrea, Djibouti, all these areas today was known as Nubia. But if you look at the script of the Ge'ez script, it's a lot like that of the ancient Hebrew. If you look at that, and it's very similar to the script, the Pyramidic script we understand out of Messer. All of it is related. All of it is related, brothers and sisters. All of it. Okay. We know that there were many proliferal dialects. I will get into this. This is something that's not talked about because they want to keep this quiet. People talk about this, the languages that were spoken. All the people they spoke maybe a common language. And maybe when others come to take the power, they spoke another language. But we know that Ga, Akan, Mende, Ge'ez, you name it, the Asiatic, Afro-Asiatic, like Hebrew and all that came later. Some of the prototype Arabic was spoken in that land. See, we know this, but it's kept quiet because why? When it's learned that these people had Ga and they had other Akan names and so forth, so on, it's going to tie Egypt to black people. They don't want that. See, so we know that when they left, how did they develop all of these different languages? See, that's why you have to use common sense. Unless somebody can tell me about this. When the Mende people left, they came across the Sahara, and then entered into the region of we know as today as West Africa. Okay, especially around the corridor, the corridor area, right? We know that. They spoke a language, and their writing systems were just a little different. When the Capelli left, they had a language, a dialect. Yes, it changed over centuries, but again, we had different black people who were living. So that meant that black people that came from other regions, especially from the South at one time, all settled in what? Egypt. We know this. And because they developed their own languages because they lived apart from one another. When they entered Egypt, they were speaking Mende. When they entered Egypt, they were speaking Ga. When they entered Egypt, they speak Capelli. They were speaking all these different languages. We know that. And then when they left, they still maintained these languages. And when they came to to Ghana, as we know Ghana today, okay, today, they still maintain their Khan. Eastern part of Ghana and western part of Togo, we understand today, yes, they speak Ga. That one of the languages that we know that was in Egypt. This is what I'm talking about, brothers and sisters. I want to cover this, inshallah ta'ala. But this is a very interesting thing because these people came there. How did they came up with all these dialects? How did the Amazigh language come about? If you look at the Amazigh script, okay, you know them as Berber, but they're Amazigh people. That's what they call themselves. And I have that heritage as well. Look at the script. It's very similar to ancient Egypt. We all came from there, brothers and sisters. We all on this continent came from that region. When it opened up to the west, we began to travel it. When the Sahara opened up, it was lush and green. We traveled across. When West Africa opened up, as we know it today, they began to travel there because of food, water, and availability of land, and so forth and so on. But when they came there, they were speaking Ga. When they came there, they spoke Mende, and he wrote in the Mende script. The Fuller people as well, when they came, they also spoke their dialect and had their own script. Okay, yes, it evolved differently as we understand it. Yes, but it all came out of Egypt. This is why it's very interesting. Okay, our brother says we should try to adopt some of the mystery systems in the States. Yes, I believe, I've said this many times before, brothers and sisters. I always believe that the so-called African American Day, they should pick an African dialect to teach and learn and give it to the children. Even if it's a lot of words, you have to, because children can pick up languages so fast. You give them 100 Swahili words or Zulu or something. They will memorize those words. Then you start to give them grammar. They will memorize that. One of the first things, one of the best things that you can do to start off everything to change this mindset that we have inside the United States is by that affecting the elders. And one of the simplest things that we have adopted and we kept still on this continent is respected elders by Baba. Baba is used in the Amazigh people to the north, and it's used all the way down into Zania in Southern Africa, the Zulus also. This is part of our legacy, brothers and sisters, that we lost in the United States, in Europe, and the Caribbean, and so forth. We do not have this reference that we should have for our elders. And by starting that, by calling our elders, older uncles, and so forth, Baba, it's an African word, and it'll start to pass down. Our children begin to take this, and we start to slowly incorporate our African culture there. Because not all of us will be able to make it here. Not all of us will be able to make it to the continent. We just can't do it at this time. But you can bring Africa to you. If you can't come here, but you can bring it to you. And one of the things is by adopting words and so forth and languages. And I think this would be a good system to go about. Yes, my brother, we also say angels came from the sky. So how do we know the difference between them and the UFOs? That's a difficult, that's a scientific. In Islam, we have, Subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the jinn, okay? We talk about that. And I give you an example of that. We know that the dogs that we see today, the dogs, we know them to be jinn. We know this. We learn this in Islam. We know them to be jinn. We suspect those that are in the space and so forth to be jinns or angels of some sort. We believe this. The UFOs and so forth and so on like this is a complicated issue because they're still now trying to uncover all this. We have agencies fighting this, and we have a lot who they're being killed over witnessing things and talking about issues about quote unquote UFOs. But even though the Congress now is starting to release some things, but we look at those that are there, and Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says in the Quran, in a verse that is a tafsir of it, has been said that those that we don't know now, that he will allow us to meet if he allows it. And a prime example of that, brothers and sisters, is this. You have the earth, you look at the universe, okay, right? We have solar systems and planets that are right next to our nose. And we have telescopes, we're finding things, we find out things about Sirius, we find out things about the Orion, we found things about the sun, but those that were sitting next to us, we didn't. Subhanahu wa Ta'ala finally opened it up, and whammo, we found it. We start to find other solar systems when he decides that he's going to allow us to see that. It's mentioned in the Quran that Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says, and our scholars said he meant that he will let these things that we do not know, okay, things that people are not things, but things that we do not know, he may let us to meet. It'd be his decision. Some said, no, he's talking about on earth. Wait a minute. We have dogs, we have cats. We already been meeting it for centuries upon centuries. We have fish, we have many different insects and so forth and so on. He was talking about things in space. That's right. He was talking about things in space. That's a big difference. And so that's how I would answer that, because this is very, very touchy issue. I have something about this, but at this time, I don't want to talk about this because it's very sensitive about this quote unquote UFO. I'll back off that because it's very sensitive and whatnot. I won't discuss that part of it, but I gave you the Islamic part of this, which we know, about what Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says, because we know that the dogs are jinn. We know this because if you think about the dogs, there's certain things, they have a certain innate things that we don't have. Like their hearing ability is very, 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 very deep. We know that the dogs worship Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. We know this. And we have ways of knowing that the dogs do. I give example that here at my house here, okay, where I'm at. Okay, I've had this happen many times. It always happens all the time during the week. You know, the dogs, they hear the call to prayer. And if I record, I had some tapes and they keep removing them out of my computer. I tape the dogs. They're out here and they're making like dhikr to Allah, reciting the words of the adhan. I don't know, but we see them turn their heads up to the heavens and you hear them howling. They don't howl this way. Watch the dog, especially those who live around Muslims and who listen to the adhan. Because I know in America, I saw a tape. One brother's living in some area where they start to play the adhan. He started to hear the dogs, and it blew him away. And he recorded it, but I think they removed it. And this is about 5 years ago, and I think it was in Texas. I believe it was in YouTube that they removed it. We know how the Tubab, the racist Tubab, the genocidal racist Tubab in these agencies, we know how they are, but they removed it. But I know out here, and I see them and I watch them, study them. When they howl, they don't howl here, they don't howl here. When the adhan is present, you look at them. Their nose, the tawheed, like going up to the Qibla. It's like going up to the heavens, to the seven heavens. They point straight up and they howl. I saw that. I watched them and I studied them. And over here where I'm at, nobody goes anywhere to the masjid, okay, at Fajr. A lot of times early in the morning, in the winter months it's cold, and other times it's just very difficult. That's why Prophet ﷺ said that one of the difficult prayer is the first morning prayer, which is true. The dogs go with me. That's right. And they'll sit out here now. A couple of them, I won't get into that, are dead now. They would sit there and they'd bark and bark and bark. And they seem to know when I'm getting ready to leave out, because they wait out there at the door for me and they begin to run, okay, towards the masjid, which is almost about near a mile from my house. I live in an area now where, the masjids are not close. And so they would come and start to go and they lead me to the masjid. See, so these are things, again, brothers and sisters, when you study and when subhanahu wa ta'ala start giving you knowledge of things, you'll start to see these things in animals, and you start to see things also in insects. Just as I came to Islam, I began to understand things about the ants because of Suleiman, as you know him as Solomon. And I started to study the ants, and it was true. I used to watch the ants at my house. And I lived in the mountains at this time before I came here to retire and live permanently back in Africa. And I would study the ants. I could tell when there was a storm coming, especially in the summer months and the spring, by the ants. When they went and covered up, I knew it was coming, and it came. And so I had a system at my house as well, okay? And rabbits. I started to see this when Subhanahu wa Ta'ala blessed me with this knowledge. So I'm giving you, brothers and sisters, because I want to show you that the mystery systems work. And Subhanahu wa Ta'ala gives us this thing, give us to, for a reason. When our special elders begin to leave, they travel to all parts of Africa. They maintain the mystery systems and pyramidic scripts, which I showed you, which changed over time, and these systems remain lost to us. The colonial period, we lost it. When the colonials left, it began to return again. But we're still not at the point where, because the Europeans left us a educational system that benefited them, and that we have to learn in order for us to adapt in their system. But the mystery schools in West Africa have returned. It's just that nobody talks about that. But I saw one brother that gave us some speech, and I was happy, but then I was kind of cringing. I said, I would they come back to destroy it. He didn't say what country it was at in West Africa, what state, but he said that the systems are back into play. See, and I was happy to hear that. During the colonial period, began to return us with the Islamic teachings, brothers and sisters, began because our people picked it up. You got to remember something. We still had the mystery systems in our blood. When the Islamic teachings and religion came, we found it easy to accept it. Why? Because the writing systems were very similar to the scriptic that the men they were writing. Okay, the Bombard was writing, and the Fuller were writing, see? And knew of. So when the brothers came over to give us Islam and the writing systems, it was easy because we already had a writing system. So now they brought the system back to us. And the script is very similar to the Mende script, to the Bombard script, to the Fuller script, to the Guy script. Okay, very, very similar. So it's easy for us. And when we looked at these teachings, that's like a mystery, okay? Because Subhanahu wa Ta'ala gave this to a special man, to Prophet. He didn't give it to me or you. He gave a special teachings to him because he wanted his way and message to resound the whole world, to re-educate it and to bring it back to Tawheed Allah. See, this is the difference between him and Jesus. I'm not making the distinction. We're forbidden from that. But I'm talking about his mission. But our African brothers, especially in the West Coast, okay, the West Africa, it's easy for us to pick it up because the scripts were similar. The teachings were similar. It's easy. We weren't taking in some foreign, bizarre thing. We already had a writing system. And so when our Afro-Arabs came with the writing system, we look, hey, whoa, it looks like I'm Bombard's script. It looks like my Mende script. It looks like this script. See? So this is something, brothers and sisters, again, you go back and really start to look at this. And I will suggest to you too, brothers and sisters, please, those who are rightful with Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, you always ask Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for the knowledge. Always. Don't take it upon yourself to say, I am this, I am that. No. Don't do that. You ask Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for guidance. You ask him for that guidance. You ask him for the knowledge. He may grant it to you, he may not, or he may grant it to you 4 years from now, but he may grant it to you, but you ask for knowledge. Don't think that you can just get it anyway. You may get some of it, but you won't get the deep knowledge until you ask Subhanahu wa ta'ala to give it. My teacher in Ghana, who spoke the God language, talked to me in riddles and paraphrases, concepts, metaphors. Only a man with mystery knowledge could do this. That's right. And I told you right now, I had writings, and this book, I don't know what happened to it, that I wrote down many of it. And I would give you one before we close here. That really stayed into my system a lot. It's two of them, but one more so than the other one. The other one was about the pebble and about the people. Don't seek them out and so forth. That is profound as well. But this one I'm gonna give to you, which I've given it some versions of it because it's very long, but I'm gonna shorten it and whatnot. But you had to have some special knowledge. And, you know, he detailed to me the laws of the opposite. He made a point to keep talking to me about the air, about the land, water, and fire. That was taught to our people there in Kemp. We know that. And he always made relationships to that. Not to violate the land, not to violate the air, not to violate the water. And when you have fire, you use fire in its right context. What happens with fire? Whatever fire goes around, whatever goes into the fire, or the fire goes to touches it, it changes it. We know this, right? See, so we use the fire for purification, not for worship. We have fire worshipers because they looked at the power of fire, which is given by Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those four opposites, water, land, air, and fire, we cannot control it. We cannot be masters of it. We cannot. See, he has control of that. That's why we know that there's a supreme being, because he put those things here for us to understand that and to say, okay, we know, to humble us so we don't think that it's us, it's him. Because when you think about the air, that should humble you. You breathe it in. Where did it come from? Did it come from you? Did it come from me? No. Okay? The waterways he put there. And when he brings the water from the skies, we have verses in the Quran talking about that as well, about how the water is brought down from the heavens, okay, to us and what it's used for. All of these are mystery systems if you want to look at it in this way. Many of the older Africans, when they begin to read the Quran, why they came to Islam, because they considered to be the missing final piece to the mystery systems. Because in it was things that no man, we didn't have no knowledge about this water, sweet water and salt water. We didn't have that. Nobody had that knowledge. Nobody. Subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the prophet even about to give us a marvel about Ramses. Remember him? Moses, remember this part? He told him where the body was at. For centuries, they didn't listen to the Prophet ﷺ. Nobody listened to him because they said, oh, that's you know, is this light-skinned black man. Yeah, he's a prophet, But when the discovery came, when the water receded, the Prophet ﷺ gave where the area was. They found exactly where he was told it was at. In 1957, I think, or 47, I think they discovered Ramses' tomb underwater. Now you tell me, the mystery systems that Subhanahu wa ta'ala is developing, and then the master mystery system is the Islamic system, brother, sister. You can't get by that. Because he gave us things that were just mind-boggling about birth, about how we conceive, the woman conceives. That was only in recent times we begin to learn that, okay? We know that. So we know the mystery systems was working. But Islamic, reason why we adopted Islam so well, because we saw this as an extension, as the final chapter to the mystery systems. I want you to understand that and listen to me good. If it goes by you, go back to the tape again another time and listen to that again. It's the final chapter of that, because the mystery systems was given. We were given the universe. We were given this. We were given that. We were given the laws of opposite. We were given many different things. When the Prophet ﷺ came, he began to sew up the things we did not know. The sweet water, fresh water. What happens when this water come to, they don't mix. We didn't know this, but he knew it because Supermarket gave it. He said that. He said that the streams, the water comes in, it doesn't mix. He said the oceans doesn't mix. Certain parts in Southern Africa, certain parts of the year or every couple of years, that division shows up. The Atlantic and the Pacific, that's right. You'll see a dividing line in Southern Africa. You'll actually see it. And people have recorded it. It's like a line. Here's the Atlantic, other side is Pacific. It doesn't mix. This is the mystery school system, brothers and sisters, to tell you Subhanahu wa ta'ala is who? He is the Sultan. It's him who governs us all. It's him and only him. How could you have something like this? This is a miracle. How? How is that? You have water. Water, we understand, you get water from a water bottle, mix it mixes. But why don't the oceans mix? And we take fresh water that goes into the ocean, it doesn't mix. See, these things. And we also found out from the Prophet, again, a mystery. He talked about, Subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him, about what? The mountains. If the mountains are 50 meters high, the length of the mountain underneath the ground is the same length. They dismissed that. And to recent time, they found out it was true. So this is some of the mystery systems, brothers and sisters, that we as Black people had. And we got some questions here. Here we go. King Solomon said, look at the ants and be wise. Yes, because Suleiman, we know him in the Quran, in the Arabic language, as Suleiman, had a special gift that Subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him. Again, he was given something that we don't get. It's a mystery. You see, mystery in the sense that who gave him this? He had this contact with the ants. How did he have this? Where did he get this? Why didn't you or me have this? You see? So we have to look at these pathetic things that happen to Black folk in all these eras. And it was about the knowledge in our DNA. Yes, thanks. Yes, I was about to say about the knowledge. And yes, yes, this is true, my dear brother. You got it right. It's true. What you're saying is very, very true here. Very, very true, and whatnot. And you know, each one of us, we should learn, as you heard me say, about where our ancestors come from. I mean, where we came from, and so forth and so on. But there's some things that make us quite different than with everybody else, and they've proven that. And I don't have time to go into that today. Perhaps I may touch on that when I go into Messer, to Egypt, Kemp, and so forth. And I get this one here. I discuss the law of opposites. I also agree Islam is the final chapter of the mystery systems. Yes, you know, and people don't talk about this because the minute you say something, they say, oh, no, yeah, now you're a mystery king. You're trying to, no, I'm not saying that. But mystery systems, meaning that Subhanahu wa ta'ala has picked certain people to have a profound knowledge, a secret knowledge that he didn't give to everybody else. He gave it to certain ones so they can spread it, yes, but he gave it to certain people. And again, we look at the mystery systems. Who gave our teachers the laws of opposite? Who would think about something like that? You see? So he gave this knowledge, but the final chapter he gave to Prophet ﷺ, because even the Bible mentions the Prophet ﷺ. We know the Vedas of India, you know, the Vedas, the Hindu, in their books, the Prophet ﷺ is mentioned in it as well. So we know these things to be the case because these are mystery knowledges. Okay, ants, water, about fresh water. And there's a whole other things too that's just mysterious about birth, not birth, but how we conceive. When 1400 years ago, he was given this knowledge. The mystery systems of Kemp, as we know it, did not have this. Okay, did not have, they had others, but they didn't have this. See, so we know that he talked about how it was developed. And in recent modern history, we found this to be the case. Very, very interesting. Brothers and sisters, I'm about ready to close here, but I want to go over something to you because I want to give you something that my teacher, he gave this to me in God, but he translated for me, because Ga is a very difficult language, and those of Ghana and Eastern Western Togo will tell you Ga is not an easy language. And you have to ask reason why that is, because it's an African dialect, but it was used in the mystery systems. We know that also Hausa was used in the mystery systems, and we also know that the Akan words were used. But Ga was used a lot. We know this. And I'll touch into this because you said, what is Yahya talking about today? I know some people may be thinking this, but I'm going to go into this at another time. But I had asked him, because I said, you know, Mr. Kose, I'm curious about something. You know, why is it that you have a lot of good people that they would have calamities and die? They get hit by a car, they fall off a roof, they get shot, or they die early from a disease. And a wicked man lives to the ripe old age of 90. Why is it a child is born and dies months later down the road? I was asking him these series of questions like this. He listened to me. He's told me to go on. So I start going through many. Why is this? Why did this happen here? What happened on this part here? And so he said to me at this point, he said, I'm going to give you something that you should pass on in time for those who's waiting for it, who are seeking knowledge. Because he said the others will not hear you. Because he was Muslim also, he knows in the Quran, subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this issue of bringing knowledge that many people will not know. Because why? There's a block in them that subhanahu wa ta'ala has put. And some just don't want to learn. Like today, I tell you about the law of opposites. There people will click this off. So, oh, shit, I don't care about learn about the air, about this. I could care less. I want to know when I can go to McDonald's to get something to eat. This is what they worship now, is food. See? And subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about that. Oh, our brothers here. Yes, I'm hoping brothers, Marcus, brothers here, and those that show up in the future. Yes, I will get into this because it's going to be unorthodox, as you know. Most of my talks are. I don't follow the like most people do. But anyway, I start to ask him this, and and he looked at me. He saw I was very serious, and I saw his face, and he waited for me, and he looked at me, and he said, "Look, I'm gonna give you something that on the surface, when I tell you this, you're not going to understand it, maybe at the beginning, but you will understand it years later more so than you do today." So I looked at him, and he said to me, and I wrote it down, and I gave some of this to some other people, and it blew them away as well. He said this message was passed on from his teacher, from his teacher's teachers, all the way across in the mystery systems, about answering the population when there's war and certain people were killed when others weren't, or why this baby was born with a defect and another baby wasn't born with a defect. All of these world calamities that we tried to ponder why. Why did this happen? Why this gangster who is killed for 30, 40, 50 years is allowed to die at the ripe old age of 90, 95, or 100 years old? But a good man and a good woman who served subhanahu wa ta'ala, who were gentle, giving, kind, loving, died at 30. All these mysteries like this. So he said to me, in my search for the truth, I was told that the sky has unexpected clouds and storms. This was Mr. Kotze speak to me in the Ga language at this time, in Eastern Ghana, and Abu Zowe is the village. I was there. And especially around 10 o'clock at night, I would get a special treat from him on this pathetic knowledge, mystery knowledge from Baba. He then said, a man has sudden fortunes and misfortunes. Nothing depends on man's own dreams. Those who not understand me, you go back to this at the end, inshallah, I'll pull this up and listen to me again on this again. And I'll start the beginning, and this time I'll go through it all. He says, after I talk about all of this stuff about the calamities, why this, why that, why we have birds in the air, why suddenly a bird will come fall down to the earth. I ask him, why would an airplane suddenly everything is going right with it? There's no mechanical, and then 140 people died from it. Why the gangster who killed, mistreated human beings for 50 years die at 90 years old when we had the best of human beings die at 30 years old? See, and he said, my search for the truth, I was told that the sky has unexpected clouds and storms. A man has sudden fortune and misfortune. Nothing depends on man's own dreams. His whole life is arranged by, we know in Arabic as qadr, we know in English as karma. He says, nature needs no weapon to kill a man. There's only one way to be born, and there's 100 ways to die. He then goes on and tells me, he says, Shabaka, he says, man, there's a path of death that walks man of all ages. You know and find out that the universe is true, talking about the seven heavens, by leaving things alone. That's how he answered me, brothers and sisters. That's how he answered me when I asked him why this beautiful couple had a baby, the baby passed. Or why this child here had a defect and another child doesn't have a defect. Why this wicked man stayed in life to 90 years old when a good man who should have stayed to 90 because he was good to other human beings and to the animals died at 30. This was his response to me. When I listened to him, he walked up from me and went back to his house, and they put me in one area here where I would sleep. And I stood there because we would sit on this one rock, and also there was made from date palms, and it's like a chair. And I stood there for about 30 minutes thinking about what my teacher said, Mr. Kotze, Baba, what he was saying to me. It went through my head. He told me, he said, you will not understand it today. He said, a year later, you will understand it. So brothers and sisters, when you heard what I just said here now, I'm giving you personal stuff, okay, that happened to me. Stuff that came from the mystery systems, no doubt. No doubt. Okay? And I'm giving this to you. This here, this idiom that he gave me here is many things. How do you decipher it? I learned how to decipher what he told me. I didn't learn it at the time. It took me years to really understand it. That's why I'm giving it to you today. And I'm hoping, brothers and sisters, that you pass this on to those who are waiting for the knowledge, who are looking for the mystery knowledge that you can get only from Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanahu wa ta'ala does not bless every African with the mystery knowledges. He does not. We know that for a fact, don't we? We know that for a fact. See? So when you come across somebody like Baba, Mr. Kotze, Eastern Ghana, who spoke the God language, and he gave me all of this stuff about meeting people that you had known in the past. And he gave me the analogy of the earth, of the four opposites. He gave me two of the laws of opposites. One was water, okay, and land, to give me the knowledge on why you don't seek those people out. He told me to pick the rock up, put it in the stream. he gave me the analogy. He said, this rock will change. The people have changed, they will change. And by the time you see them in 20 years, they will not be the same. So he said, you respect them as you knew them then and don't seek them out. Again, a mystery. And he was correct. When he told me that, he was correct. So brothers and sisters, again, I'm kind of long today, but my unorthodox talks, and I'm hoping that you review this tape again, because this is a different type of talk, because we're talking about mystery systems. We don't get enough talk about that. Many Africans don't even care about it. That's why we're sitting on our rear ends now, getting our butts kicked, because the knowledge is only a few of us that have it. The rest of us are chasing the air. And we having those who do not have the mystery systems, they're leading us because we're being punished. See? So today I gave you some aspects of this. And I want you to think about something too. And I want you to do your research on this. When you pull up ancient Egypt, you ask the question, where did all these Africans come from? Did they all come from one area here only, and that's it? See, you have to ask that question. And you can get one answer by is this. We look at the Hebrews, right? They had a language, didn't they? So that tells you when they were in Egypt, they spoke in dialect in African, because Hebrew is an African dialect as well. But they spoke Hebrew. See, we know. And we know we found words and we found names of pharaohs in the Ga language, in the Akan language, in the Mende language, in the Giz language. We know this. See? And I'll get into that, inshallah ta'ala. This is a mystery. All these black people were led to Egypt. They all had their own dialects, and they left with their dialects and their languages, and they left with a script that we still have today. It was returned to us because Subhanahu wa Ta'ala blessed some of our African brothers who saw it and begin now to teach us this script again. That's right. So I'm giving you things that perhaps you don't think about, because I understand that. You worried about family, you worry about wife, you worry about your children, you worry about going out, you worry about putting food on the table. A lot of times you don't think about things like this. This is why Islam precedes everything else, because Subhanahu wa Ta'ala gives you the answers about things like this. We don't want you to worship your calamities. We understand that you're a human being. You will cry, you will get mad. These are human traits, no doubt. But we have a word in the Arabic language we call mizan, meaning the balance between things, okay? We have to balance that. Yes, I'm worried about my bills over here. I'm worried about my wife. She's not doing well. I'm worried about money. But you got to balance it correctly, and you have to always balance it with meaning that Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is always first. And our mystery school systems, they knew this. This is why they taught, especially the laws of opposite, because they want the future generations to understand that Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is governing this earth. It's not us. And a prime example of the mystery answer to that, who over here can control the air? You show me a man today or in the past who can control the air, who can turn it on and turn it off with a switch. You show me that. It's a mystery. How about the land? Can we open up the land and put it back and forth and manipulate it? Oh, yes, we can move the dirt around, but the land is permanent. Can we control it? No, we cannot. We cannot control the air. How about water? The water we cannot control. It was put here for us, and it continues to come down. Who controls that? You, me? Nobody. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fire. You say, oh, no, we can control fire. You cannot. You can start a fire, yes. But how do you explain the fires that are generated around the world that nobody set? Huh? That's why man can never colonize. Man can never master and be the master of air, water, land, and fire. That's from the mystery systems, brothers and sisters. Our ancestors taught that. To tell you that there's a supreme being there, you better worship him. That in itself, those four things there should give you a guide to tell you why there's a supreme being. You'll see African Americans today on TV, brilliant. They have the mysteries of Egypt a lot, but they'll tell you don't worship Allah or Yahweh. They'll tell you something else. Subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving them some knowledge, but he's stopped others, stopped a lot of the knowledge as well. So that part you don't listen to, because when he gives you the laws opposite, that tells you Subhanahu wa ta'ala has his name, that he has the control of that. And he tell you don't worship him, you know there's something wrong with him. This Egyptologist will tell you about the laws of opposite, and then he'll tell you don't worship Allah after he gives you what Allah is controlling. We don't control it. See? So these are things, brothers and sisters, that I just want to touch with you today. And I got to get ready to go to, I discussed the laws opposite. I agree. Islam, yeah, we talked about that. It's true. I want brothers and sisters to get this, to understand that the laws opposite are something else. It is something else. And our brother Marcus also is giving us his thoughts too, that it is, when you think about it, the final chapter of the Mystery Sisters, there's no more. All of the knowledge, the Subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that as well in the Quran. That's why you have to look at things differently, brothers and sisters, today than you did in the past. I'm opening up your mind to the mystery systems, okay? Because Subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you in the Quran, in Surah 5, verse 3, that he said he perfected the religion today. That means all of its mysteries, all of its profound things, all of the prophetic things that's happening, he's perfected it. And he has answers for it that Mr. Kosik gave to me by telling me to leave things alone. He said, if you know that the seven heavens up there are true, you'll know that's true up there by these things that you asked me, by leaving it alone. This is again, brothers and sisters, I want you to think about this. And my brother said he's looking forward to the discussion. Let's find a way to begin different backgrounds together. The best schools were small. Okay, if you're still here, brother, I see what you mean, but you're talking in riddles to me in a way. Let's find a way to begin different backgrounds together. I think the best schools are small. Yes, I think I kind of get your drift. Yes, I believe in my heart, I'm firmly believing of this, that Islam is the best of schooling that you can get, because it incorporates all of the mystery systems in it, plus the mysteries that the others did not have. And he gave the rest of the mysteries to our Prophet. That's why Subhanahu wa ta'ala said there will be no more prophets. I mean, the prophet said that. He was told there will be no more prophets after him. We had false prophets all over the place, but none of them they're not Prophet Jesus ﷺ or Solomon or Dawood or David. They're none of that. See? So, brothers and sisters, those who want to have knowledge, who want to get deep knowledge and to understand the earth better and understand the heavens better, the mystery systems, and you should come to Islam if you're not, and start to understand the Quran, because the Quran is a mystery, meaning that the knowledge from it is coming directly from Subhanahu wa ta'ala. and he gave it to a man to convey it to us. It's a mystery system because the black people, this is how we operated. And you have to ask the question, why all these mystery systems were given to black and brown people? Think about that. Yes, we had Europeans who had Pythagoras, we had we had others. But I saw something today about what somebody said, Einstein said about something like that, and I can't remember, so I won't quote that, but I saw it, I was mesmerized by it. But what I wanted to say is that these pathetic mystery systems were given to black and brown people in India as well, in China as well, but not that level of the prophets and not the level of our African brothers. See, and they were given things. I'll give you one, I'm getting close, black seed. If you, black man, you there in the United States or Canada or the Caribbean, you know what? You better get a hold of black seed. It was made and put on the land for black folk and others to take it as well, for us to teach it. Get black seed. And black seed, black seed, everybody knows what this is today. You go get that. Our prophet talked about that. It's in the mystery school systems, brothers and sisters. The black seed is a mystery grain. In it, it cures everything except death. That's right. Go get black seed and begin to learn about it and give it to your family for health. It's one of the mysteries school system that we have about health that was taught. Black seed is one of them. Our Prophet ﷺ talked extensively about it. I'll give you one more and I'm going to close here. The fonio rice is in the corridor of the Sahel region. You can't find its brother or sister or father or mother anywhere on this earth. Where did this rice come from? Most rice are related in a lot of substance, but not this fonio rice. I talked about this when the doggone people, right? They cultivated this rice. Who gave them this rice? Huh? It's a mystery, isn't it? It's part of the mystery system. And they said that. The doggones in their writings said, in their hieroglyphic writings, they said this fonio rice was given out from the heavens. We have no rice like it. They say you can barely see it. It's a tiny, 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 tiny seed. And it's totally different than all the other rices. It's a mystery. It's in the mystery systems. So you guys think about that. All the mystery systems are in the deen. Yes, they are. They are in the deen. And that's why the final chapter is the Quran. The final chapter is the Quran of the mysteries. Because you notice something? We have no more of these mysteries systems anymore. When things happen, the mysteries are solved. We find mysteries are solved through our mystery systems one way or another, or through the Quran. That's right. See, so we know this, okay? And that's why this knowledge here is only for those who subhanahu wa ta'ala will not learn. Because he says in the book, he said, I'll give you things, but most of the people will not know. That's what he said many times in the Quran. I'm translating in English. See? So, and he says this about the people that will not know. You give them all this mystery knowledge, they will not take it. And we see that today. This is why we're in bad shape around the world. We're destroying the environment. The food, we can barely eat it anymore because everything is contaminated. And we're being ruled by those that subhanahu wa ta'ala has disgust for. He doesn't like them. He said in the Quran, he says even in Hebrew and Judaism, that the wicked people like this will be destroyed. In the Quran, subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us many times, he's got the people like this ready for hell. for the Jahannam. See? So, brothers and sisters, I will close today with this talk on the mystery systems and my personal events that happened with a person who was gifted with this particular knowledge. I give this to you today for you to ponder, and I'm hoping that you'll go back, especially the last part here, to listen to what Mr. Kosi Baba, who's passed on, told me, and you think about that and you answer people when your children come to you crying, want to know, Dad, why did my friend die? He walked out in front of school. He didn't do anything to anybody. He got hit by a car. Why did my friend, who I love a lot, Dad, was sick and died? Daddy, why are these men here prone to criminal activity and this other man is not prone to that? Mr. Colsey said, you know that the universe, the seven heavens are true by leaving things alone. Ponder those words, brothers and sisters. Salam alaikum. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.